Let's go live to that nest now to see if we can see what it is. There it is, you can see it a little more clearly. You've got some feather detail there now. It's actually very well camouflaged on the ground. It's filling the whole whole nest, and it's just one bird. And there's another clue for you. I can tell you it is in fact a young cuckoo, and it's squatting in a meadow pipit's nest. And of course we've been watching this bird throughout the course of the day, and here you can see it more clearly. The adult meadow pipits, both of them, have been feeding it as regularly as it demands, and it's a very demanding chick. And there you can see its enormous orange gape. The adult's coming in. We think it's about 12 to 14 days old. And of course the adult cuckoo, a brood parasite, would have laid its eggs in the nest, and this is the surviving youngster. And believe it or not, even though it's got that massive orange mouth, it's deficient in visual stimuli, in the sense that obviously if there were a nest full of meadow pipit youngsters, that would be a bigger area of mouths to stimulate those adult pipits. So it does try and have the biggest mouth possible. And there you can see on the left-hand side of the screen is one of the eggs which it turfed out. Now, when a cuckoo lays an egg in a nest like this, it removes one of the eggs and then replaces it with its own. The trick is that its egg will hatch more quickly than the meadow pipits, and as soon as it does, the youngster displaces those eggs, so it's got no competition. But it's the first time that we've had a cuckoo live on Springwatch. We've had them pre-recorded, but now we can watch it round the clock. We're hoping to learn a lot more about its behaviour in the coming days, so stay tuned for that.
There is so much to say about it, isn't it? Because it really is a bonkers nest, and that cuckoo is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I show you this photo that's been sent in by Mrs. Geordie Picks, is what she says her name is, look at that. I mean, that is a cuckoo that's still being fed. So it's fledged, but still being fed by the adult, and it's what? 8 times bigger or something mad. So yes, it's going to be really interesting to see how much that cuckoo grows over the next 2 weeks.
Superb, superb stuff. Now then, what have we got coming up next? I've completely forgotten.
Cuckoo.
I know.
Cuckoo.
It's our cuckoo.
It's a cuckoo.
So I was carried away with Sanders there. Let's go live to our cuckoo's nest there, and you can see that young bird. It's in the meadow pipit's nest. We introduced you to it last night. It's facing the wrong way there. You've got a tail view of the young cuckoo in the nest, but there's been plenty of activity throughout the course of the day. The 2 meadow pipit adults have been coming in, doing their very best to satisfy the urges, the hungry urges of this cuckoo. It's got that enormous orange gape there. And look, it's so vociferous that it's begging for more food before it's even swallowed that dragonfly. And the meadow pipits take it back out and give it another go. And then the next one comes in. Backwards and forwards all day long. Now that cuckoo is going to be in the meadow pipit's nest for 20 days. Typically, meadow pipit chicks would fledge after 12 days. So they've got another whole week of feeding that bird before it's any chance of it leaving the nest.
It's absurd, isn't it? It looks absolutely absurd.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely bonkers, I have to say. Fantastic to see it, though. What have we got coming up? Oh, sorry, we're going to pieces here, aren't we?
Yeah, you've gone cuckoo, haven't you? We're going to look at what actually happens with the cuckoo when it lays its egg.
What actually happens with the cuckoo when it lays its egg? Right, here's an adult cuckoo, and it's prospecting for hosts. Each one of the cuckoos has a range in which there are a number of its host species. This one has got its eye open for reed warblers. It spots that the reed warbler has moved away from its nest and it dashes in as quickly as possible. If it's spotted by the reed warbler, there's a far greater chance that the reed warbler will reject the egg that it's about to lay in the nest. So in a very short space of time, it picks out one of the reed warbler's eggs, which it may discard or eat. And look, this is it, actually laying the egg into the nest. And there, the reed warbler comes back. It is slightly larger, the cuckoo's egg, but it's sufficiently well camouflaged that it doesn't spot it and it settles down. Now, as I mentioned, the cuckoo's egg actually hatches much more quickly than the reed warbler's egg. and therefore it has the opportunity to use its back to throw all of those reed warbler's eggs out of the nest. And even if there are youngsters there, it will pick them up and struggle up the side of the nest and dump them over the side into the water to ensure that it gets all of the food itself.
The instinct is absolutely incredible, isn't it? The instinct to push those eggs out is phenomenal. Absolutely amazing nature sometimes. OK, but it's not the cuckoo that always has its own way, because sometimes the host species fights back. Take a look at these photographs. This is from Charles Tyler, and Charles was a scientist who studied meadow pipits and cuckoos.
Hello.
Meadow pipits and cuckoos. For 20 years in Dartmoor. He observed meadow pipits harassing a cuckoo. I think you've got to agree those are fabulous photos, aren't they? But take a look at this photo as well, because this tells a story too. Because look how alike a cuckoo is to a sparrowhawk. And so sometimes when the cuckoo comes into the nest, then the host species will go because it thinks it's a sparrowhawk coming in, a predator. It lays its eggs so quickly and then manages to escape before they realise.
Let's move very swiftly into our mindfulness moment tonight, where we get our wits back together.
Right, let's have a look at the cuckoo, because this cuckoo is just being fed and fed and fed, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And this is the cuckoo that hatched in a meadow pipit's nest that was parasitised by the cuckoo's mum. And there it is, and yep, it's doing well. But as I say, you know, its parents are busy feeding it like you can't believe.
They certainly are. Now, what we would like to do is contrast the feeding rate of a meadow pipit's nest with the feeding rate of meadow pipits servicing a single cuckoo. But to do that, we would need our third new nest of the evening, which is a meadow pipit's nest. It has 4 young. Here we are live now at that meadow pipit's nest. And we're able to watch this nest throughout the course of the day. We've seen some activity. They've been coming in at the same time as other pair has been feeding the cuckoo. And this gives us the capacity, to, as I say, to contrast those feeding rates. Now, we know that the cuckoo is great at begging. It's got that massive orange excuse me, I think I've swallowed a fly. And for a vegan, that's a crime. Excuse me. It's got that massive orange mouth and it's constantly calling. But what's the score on the door when it comes to which nest is getting most food? Is it the 4 regular chicks or is it the cuckoo? Well, here we've got some preliminary data. So we've been measuring the counts at certain hour-long periods. So Tuesday here between 6 and 7 in the morning, 13 feeds to the meadow pipit, 16 to the cuckoo. At lunchtime on the same day, 11 to 19. And then today, Wednesday, here we've got 6 and 7, 7 to 11, and then eventually it was a draw at lunchtime. But what we're seeing here is a clear trend that the single cuckoo is getting more food than a nestful of regular meadow pipit chicks. And I did some preliminary research today, looking through some scientific literature, to see if there was any difference that had been recorded previously. There were signs that larger host species, basically bigger birds that could probably take bigger insect prey, led to the more rapid growth of the cuckoo. They were putting on 6.2 grams a day. But then other papers suggested there was no difference at all. So that's something that we will investigate further. And when you join us tomorrow, we're going to be looking at egg mimicry too.
Do you know, we've never had a live cuckoo nest on the show before, but we have seen the growth of a cuckoo, haven't we, with a recorded nest. And let me tell you, it's unbelievable how big they get and how much they spill out of those nests. Anyway, let's check in on another one of our live nests, perhaps one that's alive, shall we? Let's check in on the cuckoo, because I'm pleased to say the cuckoo is alive and well and growing. I'd like to say by the day, but it's almost as if it's growing by the hour. It's just getting bigger and bigger and spilling out of that nest. Still being fed a lot, that's why it's getting so big, with that massive gape that those poor meadow pipits have to keep filling. We think this cuckoo is just over 2 weeks old, and we think it could actually fledge from the nest at the weekend. So if you're watching our live cameras, remember we're not on tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday. We'll be back with you on Monday. And by Monday, we might be able to give you the good news, fingers crossed, that it's fledged.
Let's go live to our cuckoo, which which is another nest we were watching last week. And there you can see this bird. And look, there's the one of the host birds, a meadow pipit, has come in and is feeding that cuckoo live. Look at the extraordinary size of that orange gape. And now you can appreciate the size of the bird. Disappears with that fecal sac, still doing their duty. But you can see there's not a lot of space in that nest now. A relatively small nest meant to be holding little meadow pipits, not giant cuckoos like this. It's stretching its wings, fanning its, albeit short tail at the moment, but it really is running out of space, which suggests that it might be fledging relatively soon. Fledging to the extent that it won't be flying, but it will find somewhere out of that nest to climb up onto so it can still be fed by those adult pipits. And they have been extraordinarily diligent, coming in, satisfying all of its needs, feeding it insects, of course, as they would feed their own young. Here you can see it begging, and then it, I mean, look at that, look.
No, I tell you, if it eats the pipit, if the cuckoo eats its mother pipit, then that's it. I'm done, that's enough.
Right, well, thankfully, we've never ever heard of that being recorded before, and I think we're unlikely to see it. I think what we are likely to see in the next couple of days is this bird needing more space, breaking out of that nest and popping up on a gorse bush nearby. What's interesting is that, of course, when the pipits fledge, they're fed by their parents for a relatively short period of time, but the cuckoo will be attended by those two adults for another 2 or 3 weeks. And one of the reasons is that it's got this constant call that it's giving. And you can see here, Pete Walkston's photograph shows you how by this stage, the young cuckoo is dwarfing the meadow pipit, which is perched on its back to put food into its mouth. So yeah, the constant cries and that big orange gape continue to prove irresistible for the pipits when it comes to feeding the cuckoos.
It is a mad photo, that, isn't it?
How about a... I'm going to do it every night just to annoy you.
Are you practising for Glastonbury? You like the surprise act?
How about a little impromptu quiz? Which UK bird lays the largest clutch every spring? Okay, which UK bird lays the largest clutch every spring? Now, you might think non-natives like red-legged partridge and pheasant or even mallard, 10 to 16 eggs in a clutch. You might think goldcrest, up to 12 eggs. Record for a blue tit, 19. But there's more.
Oh, well, that actually, I thought it was a grey partridge because we had them on the show on a Springwatch, and
yeah.
I think at the time it was 18 eggs, if my memory serves me correctly.
18, you're pretty good, actually, yeah. Grey partridge, 20, along with moorhen, potentially 20. But there is one species that tops that, lays 25 eggs every spring. It's the cuckoo.
No.
Up to 25 eggs every spring.
In different nests?
In different nests. So not technically a clutch, is it? But they lay the most eggs. Yeah, what about that? Let's go live to our cuckoo now, where one of those eggs has hatched and has successfully developed. Now, you have to peer down into that hollow there. That was a meadow pipit's nest. It's been trampled flat by this gargantuan cuckoo chick. And you can see the head there on the left-hand side and those wings and tail poking out. It's been very active, actually, throughout the course of the day. Hasn't quite fledged in the sense that it's left the nest, but it's been sneaking out, finding a bit of sunshine, finding a bit of shade as it's become impatient, waiting for those pipits to come back. Oh, look at it. It's a weird-looking bird, isn't it, though?
It's
honestly.
Desperate to go, Chris, isn't it?
It is. Well, it wants to get the safety of a gorse bush beneath it, doesn't it? So it can get up off of the ground, because it is still on the ground, and if the fox cub was there, it would have that cuckoo. But look at the length of its tail. Look at the wing, how rapidly it's grown.
You don't think it swallowed
Honestly.
the meadow pipit, do you? Whole? No, we can tell you it didn't.
Both meadow pipits are still feeding it. But yeah, keep your eye on that cuckoo because it is about to go. And remember, you can watch our cameras from 10 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. We have been on Fledge Watch this week, you'll know. It's our cuckoo that we've been looking at. And we go live now, not to the cuckoo's nest, of course, but to the meadow pipit's nest where it was incumbent. And you can see that it's not there. Yes, earlier today, it scuttled away for the final time, we think, the meadow pipit's nest. It had clearly outgrown it. So first thing this morning, it decides to break out into the surrounding vegetation. Now, it's not sat on top of a bush quite yet. It's been so hot here today. I think, to be honest with you, it's been finding shelter down in the undergrowth. Pipits came back, noticed that it'd gone, but of course it didn't take them long to find it. It was begging like mad. And here you can see those adults ducking down to feed the cuckoo. It's moved about 5 metres, and we spoke to Charles Tyler from the University of Exeter, who studied cuckoo fledging for some time, and he says that within 8 to 10 days, these young birds can move up to 500 metres or more, so it won't be hanging around for much longer.
Although the parents will feed it for a while, won't they? They'll continue to feed it.